Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue to produce more inspiring stories. This is the true story of how discovering the most horrific abuse led to 3 miraculous encounters that changed everything. What started as a son's worst nightmare became proof that God sends exactly the right people at exactly the right moment to heal what seems irreparably broken. Marcus Thompson was 42 years old when his world became impossibly complicated. A successful architect in Chicago, he had been married to Rebecca for 8 years, and they lived in a beautiful house in Lincoln Park with his 68-year-old father, William. William had been gradually losing his sight due to macular degeneration over the past 3 years. What started as difficulty reading had progressed to complete blindness, leaving him dependent on others for basic daily tasks. When William's condition worsened, Marcus faced a difficult choice. His father had always been fiercely independent, a retired Marine who had raised Marcus alone after his mother died when he was 12. The idea of putting William in a nursing home felt like the ultimate betrayal of everything his father had done for him. "Dad," Marcus had said 18 months earlier, "Rebecca and I want you to live with us. We have that spare room downstairs, and you'll have your independence, but also the help you need." William had resisted initially, but eventually agreed. "Son," he said with the dignity that never left him despite his condition, "I don't want to be a burden." "You could never be a burden, Dad. You sacrificed everything for me. Now it's my turn." Rebecca had seemed supportive at first. She smiled, nodded, and even helped convert the spare room into a comfortable suite for William. But Marcus began noticing small changes in her behavior. Impatience when William needed help, sighs of frustration when he asked questions, a coldness in her voice when she spoke to him. Marcus attributed it to the stress of adjustment. He was traveling frequently for work, often gone for days at a time on major projects. He trusted Rebecca to care for his father with the same love and respect he would. He had no idea what was really happening in his home. On Thursday, November 14th, 2024, Marcus finished a project in Milwaukee 2 days early. Instead of calling ahead as he usually did, he decided to surprise Rebecca and his father by coming home unannounced. He pulled into his driveway at 2:47 p.m., grabbed his suitcase, and quietly opened the front door, planning to surprise them both. What he heard from the basement made his blood run cold. The sounds coming from downstairs were unmistakable. His father's voice, weak and pleading, "Please, Rebecca, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spill." Then came Rebecca's voice, filled with a venom Marcus had never heard before. "You're pathetic. Do you know how disgusting you are? How sick I am of cleaning up after you." The sound that followed made Marcus's knees buckle. The unmistakable crack of a hand hitting flesh, followed by his father's cry of pain. Marcus dropped his suitcase and ran toward the basement, but froze at the top of the stairs when he heard Rebecca continue, "Marcus isn't here to protect you now, old man. And if you tell him about this, I'll make your life even more miserable. Who's going to believe a blind, senile old fool anyway?" Marcus crept down the stairs, and what he saw through the partially open door destroyed him. Rebecca was standing over his father, who was cowering in his wheelchair, a red mark across his cheek. On the floor around him were scattered pieces of a broken bowl and spilled soup. "Clean this up," Rebecca commanded, knowing full well that William couldn't see where anything was. As William fumbled blindly for the pieces, trying desperately to please his tormentor, Marcus watched his proud Marine father, the man who had raised him with dignity and strength, reduced to a victim of abuse in his own son's home. Marcus's hands shook with rage as he pulled out his phone and started recording. For the next 5 minutes, he documented Rebecca's cruelty, her pushing William when he moved too slowly, her deliberate accidents that caused him to stumble, her psychological torture disguised as help. Finally, Marcus had seen enough. He burst through the door like an avenging angel. "Get away from him!" he roared. Rebecca spun around, her face going white as she saw Marcus holding his phone. "Marcus, I saw everything," Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. "I recorded everything." William's face crumpled with shame. "Son, I didn't want you to know. I thought if I could just endure it." Marcus knelt beside his father's wheelchair, and gently took his hands. "Dad, this is not your fault. This is not your fault." As Marcus helped his father to his feet, he looked at Rebecca with disgust. "Pack your things and get out, now." But as Rebecca stormed upstairs, screaming threats and curses, Marcus realized his problems were just beginning. His father was traumatized, his marriage was over, and he had no idea how to begin healing the damage that had been done. That's when the first mysterious encounter happened. If this story is touching your heart and you believe that help comes from the most unexpected places, share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe, because what happens next will restore your faith in divine intervention. That same evening, as Marcus sat in the hospital emergency room with his father, who needed medical attention for injuries he'd been hiding, a woman approached them. She appeared to be in her 50s, wearing plain clothes, with the kindest eyes Marcus had ever seen. "Excuse me," she said gently, "are you Marcus Thompson?" Marcus looked up, confused. "Yes, but I don't think we've met. My name is Grace Williams. I'm a specialized caregiver for trauma victims. I couldn't help but overhear what happened to your father." Marcus was immediately suspicious. "How did you know our names? Did someone call you?" Grace smiled mysteriously. "Sometimes we're sent exactly where we're needed. Your father has been through something terrible, and he's going to need very specific care to heal, not just physically, but emotionally." She knelt down to William's level and spoke directly to him. "Mr. Thompson, what happened to you was not your fault. You are not a burden. You are a beloved father who deserves dignity and respect." William began to cry, the first tears Marcus had seen from his proud father in years. "I can help," Grace continued, "but only if you both want me to." Marcus was skeptical but desperate. "What kind of help?" "I specialize in what I call restoration therapy, helping people who have been broken by betrayal find their way back to wholeness. It's not just medical care, it's deeper than that." Over the following weeks, Grace appeared at their house every day, always at exactly the right moments. When William had nightmares, she was there with techniques to calm him. When Marcus struggled with guilt over not protecting his father, she had exercises to help him process the trauma. But the strange thing was, Grace never seemed to eat, never seemed to get tired, and whenever Marcus tried to pay her, she'd smile and say, "This is already taken care of." When Marcus asked who was paying for her services, Grace's answer sent chills down his spine. "Someone who loves you both very much wanted to make sure you had exactly what you needed." 3 weeks later, Marcus was facing a legal nightmare. Rebecca was demanding half of everything in the divorce, including the house where William lived. Her lawyer was claiming that Marcus had emotionally abused her by choosing his father over his wife. Marcus sat in his own attorney's waiting room, knowing he couldn't afford a prolonged legal battle, and terrified that he might lose the home his father needed. That's when a distinguished older man sat down next to him and said, "Mr. Thompson, my name is Samuel Richards. I understand you're in some legal trouble." Marcus looked at him suspiciously. "Are you a lawyer?" "I was for many years. Now I do something different. I help people who are fighting for what's right." Samuel reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "I took the liberty of investigating your wife's background. What I found might interest you." The folder contained documentation of Rebecca's previous relationships. 3 other men she had married and divorced, each time targeting men with elderly or disabled relatives. She had a pattern of isolating and abusing the vulnerable family members, then using guilt and manipulation to extract money in divorce settlements. "How did you get all this?" Marcus asked in amazement. Samuel smiled enigmatically. "Let's just say I have resources. Rebecca's previous victims were too ashamed to speak up, but when they heard about your situation, they decided to come forward." He pulled out a stack of sworn affidavits from Rebecca's previous husbands, all testifying to the same pattern of abuse. "With this evidence," Samuel continued, "Rebecca won't get a penny. In fact, she'll likely face criminal charges for elder abuse." Marcus couldn't believe it. "Why are you helping me? What do you want in return?" Samuel's eyes twinkled mysteriously. "A long time ago, someone helped me when I thought all hope was lost. Now I pay it forward. He stood up and handed Marcus a business card. "Call me if you need anything else." When Marcus looked at the card, it was blank, except for a phone number. When he looked up, Samuel was gone, as if he had vanished into thin air. 6 months later, William was physically recovering, but still struggling with the emotional trauma. He had developed severe anxiety, afraid to be left alone, jumping at sudden sounds, and refusing to let anyone help him with basic tasks because he was terrified of being too much trouble. Marcus was researching therapists when a young woman knocked on their door. She appeared to be in her 30s, with an unusually peaceful presence. "Hi," she said with a gentle smile. "My name is Hope Martinez. I'm a trauma counselor and I heard about your father's situation." Marcus was getting used to mysterious helpers appearing out of nowhere. "Who told you about us?" "Word gets around when someone needs help," she said simply. "Your father is suffering from something very specific. Betrayal trauma from someone he trusted. I specialize in healing that particular wound." Over the next several months, Hope worked with William using techniques Marcus had never heard of. She called it restored dignity therapy. Somehow, she helped William remember who he was before the abuse, not just a blind man, but a Marine, a father, a man who had overcome incredible challenges. But Hope's gift was more than therapeutic. It seemed almost supernatural. She could sense exactly what William needed before he asked. She brought him books on tape about Marines in Vietnam, William's era, that seemed to arrive exactly when he was having his darkest moments. She introduced him to other veterans who became fast friends, as if she knew exactly who would connect with him. The most mysterious thing was how she seemed to know details about William's military service that were in no records, stories that only William himself remembered. "How do you know about the Christmas Day mission in Da Nang?" William asked her one day, referring to something he'd never told anyone, not even Marcus. Hope smiled mysteriously. "Sometimes the stories that need to be told find their way to the people who need to hear them." 1 year after the discovery of Rebecca's abuse, Marcus and William were living in peace. Rebecca was in prison for elder abuse and fraud. The divorce had left Marcus with everything, including enough money from Rebecca's other victims' settlements to ensure William would never want for anything. But the most amazing transformation was in William himself. The broken, frightened man Marcus had found, cowering in the basement, had become someone new, still blind, but radiating the dignity and strength that had been stolen from him. The 3 mysterious helpers had all disappeared as mysteriously as they had arrived. Grace stopped coming when William no longer needed daily care. Samuel's phone number was disconnected after the legal case ended. Hope simply stopped showing up when William had fully healed emotionally. One evening, as father and son sat on their porch, William said something that made Marcus's heart stop. "Son, I need to tell you something about those 3 people who helped us." "What about them, Dad?" "The night before Rebecca's first attack on me, I had a dream. I was standing in a beautiful place, brighter than anything I could see even before I went blind. And I saw your mother." Marcus felt chills run down his spine. His mother, Sarah, had died when he was 12. "In the dream, your mother told me that what was about to happen would be terrible, but that I needed to endure it because it would lead to something beautiful. She said 3 angels would be sent to help us, 1 to heal our bodies, 1 to restore our dignity, and 1 to give us justice." William turned toward Marcus with tears in his sightless eyes. "She told me their names, son. Grace, Samuel, and Hope. She said they'd come exactly when we needed them most." 3 years later, Marcus and William had started a foundation called Dignity Restored to help other families dealing with elder abuse. They had helped over 200 families, always with the same pattern of mysterious helpers appearing exactly when needed. William, now 71, had become a powerful advocate for the elderly and disabled. Despite his blindness, he spoke at conferences, testified before Congress, and had become a voice for the voiceless. The trauma that was meant to destroy him had been transformed into a platform to help others. Marcus had never remarried, choosing instead to dedicate himself to caring for his father and their mission. But he had found something better than romantic love. He had found purpose. Every Christmas Eve, they visited Sarah's grave together. Marcus would read aloud the letters they'd received from families they'd helped, while William listened with tears of joy. "She's still watching over us, isn't she, Dad?" Marcus would ask. "Every day, son, every single day." On the headstone, Marcus had added an inscription: "Sarah Thompson, beloved wife and mother, still sending angels to those who need them most." The Dignity Restored Foundation had grown into a national organization, but Marcus and William never forgot where it started, with 3 mysterious strangers who appeared exactly when hope seemed lost. In their office, they kept 3 empty chairs with small plaques: Grace, the healer; Samuel, the defender; and Hope, the restorer. Visitors often asked about them, and Marcus would simply say, "Those are reserved for the angels who taught us that help always comes, even when we can't see where it's coming from." Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? Hebrews 1:14. If this story proved to you that angels walk among us in the darkest times, share it with everyone who needs to believe in divine intervention. Subscribe for more true stories that show God's love never fails to reach us. Remember, your worst betrayal might be preparing you for your greatest purpose.